Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome all. Hopefully, we're all enjoying our preseason baseball. I welcome each and every one of you. Well, this video is going to be a little interesting take about where our New York Mets are going in the future. And I'm just going to pose this question. What if the goal of the New York Mets are to essentially be the Tampa Bay Rays with money? With money. The Tampa Bay Rays have really been one of the smartest organizations over the last 20 years, running that franchise with a measly amount of payroll, a pathetic amount of payroll, yet always contending in one of the most competitive divisions in all of baseball with the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and now the Orioles. But the Rays were always, and still are a team to reckon with. What if David Stearns is going to turn the New York Mets into that organization? But we have hundreds and hundreds of $1,000,000 to back things up. And I say this one thing, that would be scary, scary. I'm going to get into reasons why I think we could be headed in that direction. But first, as always, if you could like, subscribe, support our channel, share the videos. Cannot thank you enough. If you love interesting baseball and Mets content, you gotta subscribe. You gotta. Okay. All right, so let's get into this. I think it's very important to know a little bit about the past to know where we're going. And David Stearns is the man. He is the key to kind of know where we're going in the future. So David Stearns was hired by the Milwaukee Brewers in 2015. At that time, the Milwaukee Brewers were pathetic. They were horrible. They were 68-94 in 2015. Since 1969, they made the playoffs four times. And in 2015, they hadn't made the playoffs in almost 30 years. So you think the Mets are in a bad situation? The Brewers were pathetic. So, okay, he takes over in 2015. In 2016, David Stearns' first year, he was 73-89. So it was a 5-game positive swing from the year before that. The year before that, like I said, they were 68-94. But what he was doing was he was trying to cultivate, develop talent while getting to know the roster. That is how David Stearns appears to work. The first year, he is kind of like not making any huge moves, but he is evaluating the talent that he has. So in the second year, David Stearns took that horrible organization, and in 2017, they were 86-76. So not bad at all. But in 2018, they took that major jump. They made the Christian Yelich trade. They made a couple other big moves, and that's when they went into a different stratosphere. In 2018, just 1.5 short years after David Stearns took over the general manager job, the team went 96-67. 96-67. They made the playoffs for the first time in 30 years. Then after that, it was basically David Stearns was running the show. In 2019, they were 89-73. They had a $132 million payroll, and they made the playoffs. In 2020, they made the playoffs. In 2021, they made the playoffs. In 2023, they made the playoffs, all while having a payroll of about $125 million. In 2023, while our payroll was over $350 million, David Stearns and the Milwaukee Brewers were operating with a payroll of $126 million. And folks, the Brewers won 92 games in 2023. 92 games in 2023. Meanwhile, the New York Mets, with a bloated payroll of over $350 million, we won in the mid-70s. It was pathetic last year. So what if we have a gentleman who is used to analytics, he is used to finding ways to win, and you see it already. His philosophy is speed, defense, pitching, run prevention. If you prevent the other team from scoring, therefore you don't have to score as many runs, but it gives you more opportunity to win. I forgot exactly what the stat is, and I apologize. I should know this. Mets in the last year, 1-2 run ball game, we had a putrid record, a putrid record. We were losing those games at a horrible clip. So if we can turn that tide and win those 1-2 run games by preventing runs, by playing defense up the middle strong, we got Bader in center field, Lindor at second base. And, even, if you're going to stick with McNeil at second, McNeil, in terms of his range, whether you like the guy's temper or not, the guy has a very high level amount of range. I believe last year, Baseball Savant ranked him at 83. So if you're in the 50th percentile, that you're league average. If you're in 83rd percentile, you are way over league average. And 83 was a low number. McNeil is actually usually ranked in a 90th percentile in terms of range. And in arm strength, McNeil at second base has a very strong arm. He's always ranked over 80. Usually in the 90th percentile in terms of arm strength. So that being said, you have Lindor, who's a Gold Glove shortstop. You have center fielder Bader, who's a Gold Glove center fielder. You have Alvarez, who's continued to develop behind the plate. His pop time has been, very good. Throwing out runners, he's gotten better with that. But Alvarez is continuing to get better, obviously, both offensively and defensively. But we see a different philosophy right now. We are not investing money in players who basically are just like kind of quick fixes. We'd rather have a collective. Stearns is making moves at a rapid pace. If you look at his non-roster invitees, I think I counted it. He has about 26 guys that he invited to camp. We've gotten to see a couple of them early on. What's his name? Who did pretty good? Well, I'll get back to that. But no, a couple of non-roster invitees. Obviously, you got guys like Dominic Hamill, Christian Scott, Chad Smith, Mike Vassell, Austin Adams, Kyle Crick. But, these guys, they make an impression. Obviously, Stearns could choose to put him on the 40-man roster. But I think it's going to be a very, very interesting. Oh, here's the guy. Trace Thompson. He's one of a non-roster invitee, and he had a phenomenal game the other day. A phenomenal game. Nate Lavender, another non-roster invitee. He's looked sharp this preseason, and I expect a very high level performance from us in preseason. Usually you got a lot of high paid guys taking it easy, but this is going to be an open competition. That's why when we lost the first preseason game to I think with the Cardinals, I'm like, oh no, it doesn't look good. But since then we've won 2 of our last preseason games, and we've looked sharp. Alvarez has looked sharp. Luis Angel Acuna, he looks sharp. And, speed, defense, and that's the philosophy we are going to be built around. And Edwin Diaz is going to be a great addition because, I mentioned those 1-2 run ball games. Edwin Diaz is the guy who closes the door. So he is a huge cog in that philosophy, So that's my opinion. Like, what do you think? Or do we have a chance? Are we modeling a philosophy like the Tampa Bay Rays? We're not going to go after high price free agents anymore, but we are going to be opportunistic. We are going to be selective. We are going to be able to develop and handpick talent like no other. Like we weren't able to do this in the last couple of years. And organizations like the Tampa Bay Rays, they are kind of famous for collecting cast-offs and somehow tweaking, if it's a pitcher, tweaking their repertoire and making these guys productive, putting their guys in a position to succeed. At the end of the day, these are all major league professionals. Sometimes organizations misuse these players in a tremendous way. And not to mention, that yes, they're misused, but also if you have an organization with a bad culture, that can also have a detriment effect to the team's success in the future. So obviously Stearns is trying to change the way he uses his players. He's using analytics. He's using numbers. He's using his baseball science to give these players the best tools to succeed, showing them the numbers and saying, hey, this is how you're going to be most successful. And I think this philosophy, even though it's not flashy, we didn't pick up Shohei Ohtani, we didn't pick up a lot of high price free agents, but at the end of the day, remember, it's all about results, all about the results. I read you off the Milwaukee Brewers. I read you off their numbers. They made the playoffs 5 times under the David Stearns tenure. That organization, like I mentioned, only since 1969 made the playoffs 4 times. That means now they made the playoffs 9 times because of David Stearns, but 5 times under the short 8-year reign of David Stearns. And if you would have said 10 years ago, like, oh, the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to make the playoffs 5 times out of the next 8 years, they're going to win 90 plus games, they're going to get to the NLCS multiple times, you'd be like, no, they suck. You're crazy. The Brewers, they have a horrible culture. They don't have money. They don't know how to develop talent. It's not going to happen. Who the heck would be able to do something like that? Well, you got the man who did something like that. David Stearns, Steve Cohen waited years to get this guy. Years. So, Steve Cohen had an instinct. He's a guy who goes with his instinct. A couple years ago, he wanted Stearns, couldn't get him, couldn't. So we had a bunch of stopgap guys, a bunch of filler pieces, Epler, and the other guys, David Porter, and it just was, it was messy. It was messy. So in the interim, Steve Cohen's like, here's the money. Here's the money. Try your best to put a talented team on the field now and in the future. It ended up not working, but I think in the back of Cohen's mind, he knew he didn't have the right people in place, and the right person that he wanted wasn't available. So what were you to do? Were you going to hire somebody else who you feel were highly talented, but wasn't your number one guy? Could you have done that? Yes, but I believe at the end of the day, Steve Cohen was targeting David Stearns, and he was targeting David Stearns for a reason. So Cohen, he spoke to us a couple of days ago, and he preached patience. For a guy like me who is, very emotional about my team, it's hard for me to be patient. But at the end of the day, the end game is for us to sustain success each year. You don't want to be good in 2024 and then stink in 25, 26, 27. That's been the Mets organization in a nutshell. The few times we've been good, 1999, 2000, 2006, 2015, 2016, then we have huge gaps of being horrible, horrible. No, that's not what David Stearns and Steve Cohen want to build. And as you see in Milwaukee, David Stearns built a consistent winner. After the first 2 years, he made the playoffs 5 out of his next 6 years. That is what's called being consistent. And that is what's called building sustainable success. So that's what we are trying to do in New York. Obviously, right now we have 6 player positions, so we have more opportunity. David Stearns has the ability to spend money, and not only spend money on players, you could spend money on resources, scouts, analytics, baseball science. You have an opportunity to make this organization better in each and every way. So that's what's exciting. And even though that we don't have that instant gratification of getting that superstar, getting that, Blake Snell, the Yankees, I look to them. They, in the past 10, 15 years, they kind of shifted to more of an analytical approach. And they went through a drought from 2009 till now. And they've been kind of like searching. Do we go back to the old Yankees by spending, or do we go to an analytical approach, like they did a couple of years ago when they got the likes of Luke Voigt and Mike Tauchman, forgot what his name was, Gio Urshela, when they had that group there that was just finding ways to win. And now I think the Yankees kind of like, they want a mix of both, but they're kind of leaning more towards like, we got to go back to the old Yankees. That's why they're trying to get Blake Snell. They got Carlos Rodon, obviously. They got Garrett Cole a couple years ago. They're trying to sign Juan Soto. They signed Aaron Judge last year. They had Giancarlo Stanton. DJ LeMahieu. They have an awful lot of payroll. And with that situation there's a lot of high risk. Like Francisco Lindor under a David Stearns tenure, I tell you what, I don't think he would have been signed a year before his free agency. Certainly not for that amount. Certainly not for that amount. I think David Stearns would have paid him accordingly to his performance. At that time, if you remember, Francisco Lindor was coming off a bit of a down season. I think he would have made a fair offer, and if Lindor didn't accept it, then he would have played out that 2021 season. And based on his performance, probably would have made him a lesser offer. I don't know if Lindor would have stayed. I don't know what would have happened, but I know that the team would have been built a bit differently. We may have Andre Jimenez at shortstop right now. It just would have been a bit different. So there were a lot of moves over the last 3-4 years that were not David Stearns type moves. Hence, possibly reason why our team right now seem to be in a bad position. David Stearns is trying to turn that around. But take the excitement out of the fact you're going to see pitchers that you don't really know. You're going to see them with nice, nasty stuff. You're going to see them put in positions to succeed because we are going to be using analytics and numbers in a way that we have not used in the past. So I expect to see us be successful. I do. I really do. A lot of people are counting this team out, and I was a position. I'm going to be honest with you. Some days I'm more kind of like, oh, I feel better about the team than on other days. I tell you what I feel. I don't try to sugarcoat things. If it's a day where I feel like things aren't going good, then I'm going to tell you. If it's another day where I'm like, you know what, I've taken a good look at that, and I think that the Mets are doing something. I give you my opinions. You give me your opinions. Drop a like, drop a comment, share, subscribe. I can't say thank you enough. I will talk to you very, very soon. Got to get ready for work. Later.